Assalamu alaikum. Welcome. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Mimi Hadi, and I'm the president of Camp Philadelphia. I'm actually here with a couple of people from camp who are going to do a video with me, a brief talk about social distancing, which, since we're about to start Ramadan and, a lot of people are experiencing Ramadan in a different way this year because of the social distancing, we thought it might be nice to just pass on some helpful tips to help people maybe cope with social distancing a little bit better. And I have with me Muhammad Atif, who is actually a member of Camp New Jersey, and he's here to provide us with technical support. So that way, hopefully the video will go as smooth as possible. So welcome, Muhammad, and thank you so much for joining us and helping provide that support for our video. And then we also have our guest speaker, which I'm really excited to welcome, Dr. Sheeba Rahman, who is joining us from Florida. She is a board-certified medical doctor who specializes in psychiatry. She actually sees patients across the country through telehealth. She actually formerly was employed by the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. And some of you might remember her from a few years ago from Camp New York, because she actually was the Camp New York Vice President a few years ago. So I'm really excited, to have her with us tonight. So Dr. Rahman, it's been a few years since I've seen you. It's really glad to have you back in the camp family. How are things going down in Florida for you?
Well, thank you, Mimi. It's so good to see you, and it's so good to talk to you, and it's good to connect with the camp family again. It's been a while. Things are good. Alhamdulillah, I can't complain. Florida is good. We're quarantining just like everyone else, so all good. But I do miss New York.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, I have some questions that I have prepared to ask you that I thought the camp members would be interested in. And, I just want to start by saying, I think we don't all live in exactly the same environments, so I think the impression I get is that social distancing does not affect everyone in exactly the same way because our environments are not all exactly the same. So hopefully the questions that I've prepared will maybe touch a little bit on some of the different scenarios that different people are living in. So I'm going to start with the first question I have is, for people who are used to working outside of the home, who normally have a set schedule, they have to be to work at a certain time, and then they have lunch at a certain time, etc. And then all of a sudden, maybe they get laid off, they get furloughed from their job. And so now all of a sudden, they actually are home without having that structured schedule anymore. And so the first question that I have for you is, for a person who's in that situation, what should a daily routine look like for someone who now all of a sudden has to stay home most of the time and they don't have that structured schedule anymore?
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people are experiencing, obviously, right now. We're used to most working professionals are used to getting up in the morning, leaving the house, and that's part of their daily routine. And a lot of times we don't realize the little things that we do during the day can serve a sort of a therapeutic purpose, whether it's your drive to or from work. Sometimes that's your moment to think, or that's your moment of peace of mind, or that's your moment to gather your thoughts. And now everything is you're confined to the same place. Your work environment, your home environment, everything's now compressed into one small area or large area, depending on what your living situation is. So my suggestion for that is really to treat yourself with the same respect that you would give yourself if you were getting up in the morning and going to work. So what's happening is a lot of people are losing track of time. They're waking up late, they're going to bed real late, they're staying in their pajamas all day long, depending on what their work situation is, and they're kind of losing track of time because of this. So I suggest creating a structure for yourself, and it's really important to set your alarm clock as if you're getting ready to go to work. Get out of bed, make your bed, keep a nice clean environment for yourself, take a shower, get dressed, start your day as you would as if you were going for work, and create a schedule and routine at home for yourself. One of the things that's important to understand is this situation is temporary. As challenging as it is, it's temporary. But we don't know how long this temporary is actually going to last. So the good thing is that once things go back to normal, we'll be able to appreciate those little things that we have during the day that we may not recognize and acknowledge normally. But now when we go back to our regular routine, we'll be able to appreciate things so much more. So I'm suggesting to people, try to have a positive spin on this. You know, we may be missing out right now, but once you go back to your routine, you'll be able to appreciate everything so much more.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you know, the second question that I have are, you know, maybe pertains to the people who don't live alone, but maybe they have you know, family members who are living with them and at home, and you know, maybe you have multiple people living in a small space and you're not used to being together all the time because you all have different schedules. Maybe you're all used to going outside of the house every day for your jobs or school. Now all of a sudden you're all home together at the same time. You have this limited space. How do you cope with getting along with everybody and when you have that limited space at home, when you're not used to doing that?
Sure. And again, that there's advantages and disadvantages to that. There are some people who just don't see their family enough, and they seem to be enjoying the family time. But most people are struggling with this because everyone's at home now, kind of in each other's space all over again. Whereas typically we're used to people having, you know, this chance to have some space from one another, and now we're all in one space at the same time without the option to really leave and get out and have your usual outlets. So for families, whether it's married couples, parents, children, extended family members, roommates, whoever it is that's quarantined together, I think it's important to kind of sit down and talk about, like, look, this is how it's going to be. We don't know how long, but this is how it's going to be. And we have to set boundaries, you know, whether it's kitchen space or bathroom space or living room space or sharing a television, and set kind of boundaries. Let this be my hour with the television. Let this be my hour to use the kitchen and cook what I want to cook. And schedule times for yourself so you can have boundaries and not overstep each other's boundaries. And then a lot of parents that are working from home, I think their spouse or their children might have this issue where they're not respecting the fact that they're still working. So just to kind of sit your family down and set the boundaries, like, look, we're all in this together. It's a difficult time, but this is going to be our work time. This is going to be our, you know, sort of leisure time as a family. This can be your time, and kind of schedule and compartmentalize things a little bit better. I also encourage people that this may be, you know, you can still go outside of the house. You can still go outside for a breath of fresh air. You can still go for a walk as long as you're taking appropriate precautions. And so maybe rotate that schedule as well. Okay, 5 to 6 o'clock, I'll go for a walk in the evening while the family's at home, and I'll have some alone time, some peace of mind, and then you come back, and then the family can go out or whatever. So kind of give yourselves the time and space where, okay, this is going to be my alone time, this is going to be our together time, and try to kind of sit together and execute a plan together as a family.
Yeah, and I think you make a really good point about going outside sometimes, because I think it's easy to assume that when you say social distancing, that means that you shouldn't go outside at all, but you can go outside as long as you're doing it in the right way and you're not getting too close to the other people in your neighborhood. You can still go out for a walk in your neighborhood, things like that. So I think that's a really good point to remind people. And you know, with the next question I had, I guess this probably is more for, well, it could be for anybody, but specifically for people who might be living alone. You know, if you're feeling depressed, or, you know, you're worried about the outcome of this virus, you know, maybe you're having some feelings of hopelessness. How do you manage these feelings, especially if you do happen to be living at home by yourself? How do you manage those types of feelings during this time?
Sure. Again, Mimi, it's a hard time. So when I'm trying to tell a lot of my patients or a lot of my family members and friends or whoever's experiencing this, is that some of it is normal to feel this way, uh, because we're in a situation now where we're out of the norm. So it's okay to feel lonely if you're alone. Now, the question is that, does that mean you're actually suffering from major depression, or is it situational? And at this time, because of the situation, so I definitely encourage for people that are by themselves the use of social networking. Okay, so social distancing doesn't necessarily mean that you need to stop socializing. You can still use your phone, call your family, call your friends, FaceTime them, use Zoom. In addition to that, meditate, pray, take this time for self-reflection, to be introspective, and take really good care of yourself. I mean, self-care is really important at a time like this, to take care of your own mental hygiene. So take care of yourself physically, emotionally, and mentally. And like I said, right now, thankfully, because of the technology, we don't have to be necessarily socially distanced. We have to be more physically distanced, where we're not coming in close physical contact, where someone can either spread the virus to you or you can spread it to them. But luckily, with the use of this technology, we can still communicate and socialize with one another, through social media. So I encourage that. I also encourage, when you're watching TV or you're binge watching something on Netflix, try to watch things that'll uplift your spirits. Or if you're going to read a book, try to read things that are going to make you feel happier and better. Because if you're by yourself and you're watching things or reading things that are going to make you feel worse, that could have an impact on your mind. Because again, you're not leaving the house, you're by yourself. So use your resources and use them wisely, and take good care of yourself right now. Let this be a time where you kind of have to treat yourself like, I have the gift of time to really take care of my mind, body, and soul right now, because I don't have to go outside. So now this is a time to really take care of myself. So try to change your perception and put a positive spin on it. As difficult as it sounds, I know it's sometimes it's easy to say these things, and it's harder to do. But once you start that ritual, once you start that routine, that today's a day I'm going to make myself, make sure I do yoga today, or go out for a walk, or read a book that's going to make me feel healthier. I'm going to reconnect with my best friend, with my family members. You'll start to slowly but surely feel better.
Yeah, and when you were mentioning the technology, it reminded me of how, if we had something like this happen, say 20 years ago, we didn't have, the same technology that we have nowadays. So, we had cell phones 20 years ago, but not the smartphone that we have now. So we didn't have some of the social platforms like Facebook, Instagram, things like that. And even like for us to be able to do this type of a conference where we're in New Jersey and you're in Florida, right. I don't know how easily this could have been done, say 20 years ago. So I feel, at least the way I look at it is that at least we can take advantage of some of these social media platforms that we have nowadays to at least stay connected with people, and that could be FaceTime, or the House Party app is something I just found out about too. So I feel at least that's something we can do, now. But the other question I had is, for those people who may have children living with them at home, if you have kids and, all of a sudden, it's different for them because they can't see their friends at school. All of a sudden, they're not able to really finish out the school year like they normally would. And probably some of the social activities that they might have had planned with their friends are kind of put on hold. How do you recommend that people help their children to cope with the social distancing during this time?
Yeah, and that's, again, a great question. I think a lot of kids are struggling with this because they're used to a routine, going to class, seeing their friends, having recess, etc. A lot of graduations are being canceled, proms are being canceled. A lot of the things that come along with going to school, and your milestones and accomplishments are being canceled because of this situation. So I encourage parents, really, to empathize with their children, because this is not easy for them. Like you said, you and I, like we didn't grow up in a time where we had to deal with something like this, where all of a sudden everything came to a complete halt and we weren't allowed to go to school, or we weren't allowed to go outside. So this is something that's a new challenge that not just we're facing this as adults, but kids are facing this, and it's actually harder for them to understand and comprehend something like this. So I really suggest that parents sympathize and empathize with their children, that what's normal for them has also come to a complete halt, and to kind of sit down with your kids and let them know that, listen, this is temporary. Again, this is because of the situation where there's a virus that exists that we don't know too much about. This is what it's required, but for your safety, we're now going to be at home, and this is the reason why school is canceled, for your safety. Now, while they're at home, it doesn't mean that just because they're not going to school that their education should completely stop, or they should stop learning. So we need to try to create an environment for kids at home so that they can continue to learn, so that they can continue to feel mentally stimulated. And again, I would encourage, set the alarm clock, get the kids out of bed, get them dressed as if they're going to school, make them have a lunchtime, make them have a playtime, and then have them engage in all school activities as if they normally would. And even with their friends and their grandparents, a lot of kids are missing their grandparents, have them FaceTime. And we're very lucky and blessed to have this technology to be able to do this, to literally be face to face with someone, on screen, where we can, communicate and kind of connect with them. So I definitely encourage that to all families with kids. Keep your kids preoccupied with intellectual things that they can learn from, they can grow from, nice, healthy activities. Make sure they're exercising, make sure they're eating healthy, make sure that they're also following a structure throughout the day. And let them also know that this is temporary, it's going to get better, and that you're there to support and protect them.
Okay, yes, no, that sounds like really great advice. Thank you so much. The next question I have really, I think, is targeted towards those people who might be living in an environment where they're at risk for domestic violence. And I know, now with everyone having to stay home so much, maybe some of those situations may be, a little bit more dangerous for some people. So the question is, if you are at risk for domestic violence during the lockdown, what would be the best course of action for someone in that situation?
Again, excellent question, Mimi. I think for anyone who's in a vulnerable situation at home, if they are experiencing something such as domestic violence, and whoever the perpetrator is, they're having more time with that person at home, and it's the situation may potentially escalate or get worse. I always recommend that safety comes first. So if you feel that you're in any kind of physical danger because of this, or you're confined to one space with a person who's potentially harming you, please do not hesitate to use your resources. The domestic violence hotlines are all open. Mental health resources we're all working harder together to support the community, our communities, local and abroad, whoever's experiencing anything as such. So don't be afraid to reach out for help or to take appropriate safety measures because of this pandemic. So don't let that stop you. If you feel like your safety is in danger, don't hesitate to call the crisis hotlines, to call the domestic violence hotlines, to call 911, because we are all, the people who are in the field, we are aware of the situation, and we're there to help and support anyone who needs. So I would encourage people to still seek safety if they need to. And if they're in a situation where they feel that they may be physically at harm, do not hesitate to call and reach out for help and support.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's a good point you made, that the hotlines are open. They're still open like 24/7. So hopefully, if anyone is in that situation, they can maybe use either social media or internet in general to find groups in their area that are available to them if they just need support too. But that's
Exactly.
good. That's good to know that they are still open during this time. Let's see. What I guess maybe in a way you've already touched on this a little bit by talking about like a structured schedule and things like that. Um, but you know, as we get into Ramadan, you know, maybe some final words on what you recommend your self-care strategy be, and you know what we can do to make Ramadan, you know, the best that we can under these circumstances.
Yeah, so Ramadan is a blessed month, and you know, it's a time where it's a time again where we focus on our soul and self-reflection. And a lot of times it's a big thing for the community. I mean, you and I both know that it's iftar season for us,
Mm-hmm.
and socially, there's a lot going on during Ramadan, and in fact, it's a lot of fun, and we enjoy it. We enjoy getting together with our community and breaking fasts together and praying together. So this is going to be a very new situation during Ramadan, where everybody is not able to do that. In fact, a lot of mosques will be closed. They will not be praying in congregation nightly like they always do. And so let's understand that it's okay to feel sad about not being able to do that, because that is something that we all look forward to annually during Ramadan, where we get to do that. So things are now going to be completely different in terms of our Ramadan routine, in terms of our Ramadan schedule, in terms of doing our iftars. So sometimes acceptance, you know, before we try to cope with something, we have to accept that, okay, this is going to be different. This is going to be unique. This is going to be new. You know, when we're in Ramadan, during the month of Ramadan, we're also out of our regular routine, right? We're fasting. We're not eating. We're not having our morning cup of coffee. We're not going out to lunch. So we're, in a way, we kind of train ourselves to do something that's not our daily routine anyways. So now, I guess, along with fasting, we're going to kind of be fasting in a different way also. And we're going to be using our resources around us differently. So again, if you have your social resources, if you have your spiritual resources, whether it's people at the mosque, whether it's people in professional organizations who are events, stay connected, still stay connected, do not disconnect. Spend more time on yourself, spend more time on your prayer and worship, because this is kind of your alone time where you don't have that pressure to, you know, make an event happen or to make sure that you're at every event. This is your time. This is your time for you now. So again, try to put a positive spin on this and make it a time where you're fasting at a different level now, and kind of spiritually connect and do some soul searching and do a lot more praying. I think this will be an advantage in a way also spiritually, to kind of have time for self-reflection and to build on your soul. You know, so I think, again, it is something that's going to be challenging, especially for people who are used to their evening rituals outside of the home. So create that environment inside of the home. Make Ramadan festive inside of the home. Have prayer time inside of the home. If you're by yourself and you're living alone, again, it's hard to break fast alone sometimes. So, you know, try to have that camaraderie with someone, like, hey, let's break fast together. Try to play the azan on YouTube, you know, just so you get that spiritual feeling that you would normally get at a mosque or at a get-together. So we gotta use our resources, stick together, have that camaraderie with one another as a community. And again, it's going to be more technically advanced this year as opposed to what we're used to doing.
Yeah, and you know, I've actually heard of people who are going to try to do virtual iftar dinners, you know, just through video chat. So that could be an option too if you're living alone and you want to just through Zoom or house party or FaceTime or something, actually, you know, maybe pick a time when you and friends or family can actually maybe do iftar together through video. You know, it's not maybe as good as being with them in person, but at least it gives you a way to connect with them too during the season.
Definitely.
Yeah.
In fact, somebody had sent me like a list of things to do for Ramadan, and people are saying, you know, get together a dua list and maybe, you know, over Zoom or FaceTime. family, make dua together, whatever you can do to kind of get through this together. And again, while we're fasting, you know, where we're not eating, this is going to be a different kind of fasting for us in a way where we're physically distanced from our social life, literally. So it's going to be something new and unique for all of us. But I really think that we can stick together and make it a healthy spiritual environment for us. And we're all here to support each other. I'm really happy that you and I were able to do this, because I know we were talking about doing an event for camp and talking about mental health and mindfulness and things like that. And the beauty of the technology that we're able to do this face to face while I'm in Florida.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, for those of you who might be watching this video, whether it's through email or social media, we will be listing the camp email somewhere below the video. So if you do have any other questions that you wanted to ask Dr. Rahman, feel free to reach out and send those to us through our camp email, and we'll definitely get back to you, or we'll connect with Dr. Rahman to get your questions answered. But yeah, you made some really excellent points, Dr. Rahman. I think that the camp members, I think, you know, it's great insight for them. And hopefully we touched a little bit on all the different scenarios, living scenarios for people. But like I said, that we're open for questions. If anybody does have any other questions they want to ask, we'll definitely get those to Dr. Rahman for you. But thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy, so thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come. It's my pleasure. It was great to see you again at a camp event. It's been a few years. So, you know, it just goes to show that the friendships that you build through camp, they last beyond the time that you might be living in the area where you first connected with camp. So, you know, a lot of us are still in touch with each other, just different areas of the country. So, and it's great that, you know, even though we're going through tough times, in a way that the tough times have brought us together, you know, to connect and to support each other, which is like what we're doing now in the video. So again, thank you. And also thank you, Mohammed, so much for the support that you've given us tonight through the video, making the Zoom, you know, conference possible for us. And we are thinking about trying to do more of these events again in the future. So if you do want to send us any ideas that you have for topics, feel free to reach out to us through our camp email also. And we'll look into seeing what events we can do again virtually for you too. But anyway, I hope everybody has a happy, healthy, and safe Ramadan, and I'm sure we'll be in touch soon. So thank you all for joining. Hope you guys all have a great night.
Thank you, Mimi. Thank you so much. I wish you guys the best, and I hope I was able to help. And again, I would be happy to participate again. So happy Ramadan to everyone.
Great. All right. Yes. Happy Ramadan in advance, and have a good night, everyone. Okay.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Thank you.